Hey, everybody, how's it going? I am your host, Rob Turley, here at Down the Rabbit Hole podcast. And today I've got someone, not one of the usual people that I would actually interview to say that. Nothing against you, Tom, but not someone I'd usually interview because he works with a company that is really structured around market research and the press, which is interesting. So we're going to get a lot of different insight versus what we're usually getting in this podcast. So I'm very excited to have him here. Tom Allen is who I have with me as our featured guest, and he is the founder of AI Journal. Love his content, really awesome. We're about to start working together, so I'm excited about that. So, Tom, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, very much appreciate it.
Absolutely. And really appreciate you having me on today, Rob. It's great to be on this podcast and great to be as part of the show. And as you mentioned, I'm the founder of AI Journal. I have a background in marketing, and that's what brought me into AI and emerging technologies, which brought me along from a background in engineering, not knowing anything about it and wanting to know all about it to help other people understand it. And yeah, it's been a fun ride over the past year, building up what we've got to help amazing companies such as yours and what we're doing. Really excited to be partnering and really excited to talk on some really broad topics and talk around what we're going to be doing.
Yeah, for sure. So, quick question beforehand with your background. Did you start with engineering and then move to marketing, or was it the other way around?
So I was in marketing beforehand. I was in London as part of a PR comms industry body, and that kind of naturally led me. And funnily enough, I didn't ever see myself going into marketing.
That naturally led you.
Yeah, it just naturally led me into marketing because I thought I was going to go into project management. But then I kind of went to an agency and that just changed everything. And now obviously it's what I love doing. I love marketing things. I love coming up with creative ideas and love coming up with ways to get an idea that people understand. So it wasn't meant to be, but it's how I've fallen into it and something I love. So very random story.
No, that's awesome. That's just actual real proof that what you went to school for or what you have a background in does not limit you to where you have to be or where you need to go. You can go anywhere you want. Similar to me, I started in a background of design.
Yeah.
And now I work in artificial intelligence. I mean, that is a total switch, right?
Yes.
So
Crazy.
who knows? It can happen. You can learn anything that you can learn. That's pretty much the takeaway right there. But moving forward, since you talk to all of these founders, different people within companies, a lot of C-suite all the time in technology all over the world. Now, getting started by talking about innovation.
Yeah.
That is the ticket here. Innovation is what drives us. Innovation is what gives us progress. Innovation is the agent of change, which is exciting. Now, what does innovation mean to you since you're surrounded by it day to day?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think innovation is coming up with something new, but also being aware that you're going to have to fail to get there. So coming up with something that really is going to change the landscape. And I mean, it's something where, I mean, to use an example, and this is a personal opinion of someone like Apple, they were innovating all the time and now they've slowed down. And I think something's going to happen where, well, especially within AI and cloud, and you know, as much as I do, it really captivates you when you see true innovation now. And it's something where I think people are losing what they actually see as innovation. Is it just something that's being replicated or something that's just not actually that much difference? But you can see true innovation when you see a kind of tool or project and you think, fuck, I can really see that changing my life. I can really see that helping me so much better and something that hasn't been around before. Like, what did you think?
I like how you differentiate that because I feel like people have been confusing innovation with improvement.
Yes.
If you're improving a process, that's not an innovation in my mind, or probably not in your mind either. But improvement is needed, but innovation is truly changing something. It doesn't have to be brand new. No one's ever seen it before. Like, you invent a new color and we can see it somehow in our spectrum, right? Yeah. But innovation is totally transforming something, someone, or a process where it's beyond recognition or it's totally different from its pre-existing state. Right. Yeah. And that's very exciting. What kind of innovation do you see in the market happening that is going to change the landscape right now?
So the obvious one would probably be VR and AR, because that really is, you're seeing new things of, I think Teams unleashed what they're doing with doing meetings in VR. That whole idea is crazy. Like, I wouldn't have pictured it. And I wouldn't have seen it as being something that's big. But also you're seeing innovation within Not so much a technical area, as I feel like a lot of companies are jumping on the AI bandwagon. If they're doing proper solutions that are AI driven or not, I don't entirely know. But I do think you're going to see a lot within the kind of marketing area. I do think you're going to see a lot within VR, because that's going to change how we interact with people and how people feel comfortable. And I mean, I think you could put it down to not just product innovation, but innovation within people as well. I mean, how hard, I don't know if you remember this, Rob, but I remembered it, or if you had the same challenge, trying to speak to people across the world was so hard to get them on camera, but before this kind of era. And now obviously everyone started working from home. Everyone's happy to jump on camera, and it's like an expectation that you need to be on camera. And I think that's kind of a confidence and a kind of innovation in our day-to-day life, because before people weren't doing it. Now it's common practice. And I think we're seeing a real kind of big way in that. But VR is 100% where I sit, and I can see that being a big area. And I think that's going to be where a lot of people need to understand how to train, how to educate, how to
Do you think it's ever going to get to the level of like Ready Player One, the Spielberg movie?
Yeah, I reckon it will. Give us 10 years. It will be
Oasis will come to be, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I can see it going that way, and I can see it being deals being conducted via, like, new business being conducted via VR. Like, let's all stick our headsets on and let's jump into this deal. And I mean, that will. I mean, look at what Elon Musk is doing. It's like Starlink. That is innovation. To think what he's going to be able to achieve with something like that, to give free Wi-Fi to the world, to places that you can't get it at the moment.
Mark Zuckerberg talked about doing that. Put up some satellite drones that had like Wi-Fi and stuff, and then just like didn't even really do it.
Yeah, did you go ahead of it?
I'd rather keep my money. Fuck it. That's what he really did. Yeah, pretty much.
I'd rather do a brand name change as well. Ideal timing, right?
Yeah, let's call it Meta, the stuff that we're stealing from everyone.
Yeah.
I think that's so ironic. I think it's hilarious that he's calling it that.
Yeah.
Terrible name, though. Why would you take something that's one of the probably the top 10 most iconic brands in the world and then just totally just shitting on it? It's gone.
And it pissed me off as well, Rob, because what do you think? It really annoyed me looking at it from, they've stolen the name Metaverse almost. Like, they've tried to put their brand behind a kind of term. And I know a lot of people within the VR scene, whether they're heads of XR or influencers like Kathy Hackle, it was a question, and it really annoyed me personally. It really fucked me off to see that they've tried to take that term and put it under their own brand. And I just think, why? Like, just, that's, the metaverse is something that should be open to everyone. You shouldn't be able to own that kind of brand. And they went and did that, and that personally annoyed me, because you think you shouldn't be able to do that kind of area. But yeah, it's
I mean, look at the company. Well, the ticker is MMAT, so Metamaterials. There's that company. They develop nanofilms, and they do it so like you can test like blood sugar, or you can actually do injections, things like that that become transdermal, that are usually not transdermal, and also nanofilms for like military goggles, where they can have like HUD displays. They do it for like smart glasses, all that stuff. It's really cool stuff.
Yeah,
that's Meta, but they're not really dealing with anything Meta at all. And it's interesting what type of term, depending on what market you're in, what people would even consider that.
Yeah.
And the metaverse is huge. I mean, I deal in the metaverse all the time.
Yeah.
Data analytics, mass data aggregation, and so on, that fun stuff. But moving forward from that, I guess, is that where do you think the metaverse is going to go? What do you think is going to be the next world that's going to be created? I guess the world within the world of Meta.
Yeah, or maybe the world within the world of the world. It'd be like an Inception thing or something, where you just keep going deeper and deeper down a hole. Like, but I don't know. I think it's a good question, because you look at it from, I don't even think we'll know all the different ways it can go. And I always say, people ask me what's going to be happening in 10 years with AI and everything, and I say, I don't know what I'm going to have for dinner in 3 weeks, right? I don't understand where this massive jump to go forward all the time, but I just know there's a lot we're going to find out, and there's a lot of things we don't even know is going to be part of that metaverse. And I think that's what's exciting. I think any new, and going back to our conversation earlier, Rob, any new innovation, it opens up doors to all sorts of innovation you didn't expect to come across. Like the innovation of the car. Look what that opened up. That opened up all sorts of new business, all sorts of new. Imagine if Henry Ford had turned around and thought, nah, not going to do it. Like, imagine what kind of world we'd be living in today. And I think it's the same when, I don't know if you are, but personally, I'm a big fan of space travel, because I think it's going to unlock a lot of innovations and a lot of things that we don't know is going to be brought from it. And I think that's a very important point to the metaverse or to any other innovation, that once you start trying to innovate and you start trying to do things, you'll find out other things that you didn't expect to stumble across, and you think, shit, that works as well. And I think it will be the exact same sort of thing with the metaverse. But let me ask you, what would you like to see in the metaverse, Rob? What do you reckon would be a cool application?
Well, I mean, what I'm doing right now, I think is a great use of it.
Yeah.
But getting further and further, I mean, we want to delve even deeper into that. And to get to the research side of things, like really in-depth, expensive research, I mean, we need to bring in the revenue. We're doing something that will make us money, and a decent amount of it, with a need that's needed right now, present need, to be able to develop solutions for future needs, or solutions for things that there's no money in.
Yeah.
Where, how are you going to make money solving that? You're not. You're just going to fucking fix what's broken. It's that simple. Well, why are you doing it? What's in it for you? Not having the entire world destroy itself. Is that a good enough response? Oh, there's no money in it. I don't care. I'm not trying to die or leave the world behind into in a shithole like it was left before us. It's not worth even dealing with the money at that point. You need money to make it happen, though. But what I want to see is really creative ways to connect human beings, to understand ourselves, to understand the environment around us at a level that is so deep that it's quite literally driven by mathematics. Everything in the world is math, but understanding our landscape, our environment, the physical world and beyond in a mathematical from a mathematical perspective, to understand how it actually works, so that we can build innovation around the actual natural function of how things are and how things will be.
Yeah, that's a great way of doing it as well, because I'm a big backer of science, and I think that would be a really interesting way of how to understand. I've never looked at it like that before, looking at it from like a proper mathematical background. One of my friends is a data developer, and he'd love that kind of view of thinking how you can make it very simple, right? Because that's the hard thing, how to make these complex ideas quite simple, and if you can narrow it down to, like you said, down to that to understand it, it's very cool.
Everything in nature is essentially an algorithm. So
yeah, I've never thought about it that way. That's very cool.
And it's like the whole idea of calculus is that the limit does not exist, right?
Yeah.
The limit does not exist. That's the rule, because everything is infinite. Well, I would actually argue that where everything should have a limit. It shouldn't be a like. So how do I put this in a way that's not like insanely complicated? Um, hmm. Everything runs in a limit cycle. It repeats, it repeats, it repeats, but it's not repeating the exact same way.
Yeah.
And we're talking about mathematics in our world, the globe that we live in. It's all limited.
Yeah.
There's no unlimited. It's not out of infinite. And this is why statistical regression doesn't really work in our world. Those models, stat models, because it's based off of no limit. It's infinite. Where nonlinear, so that's linear mathematics. Nonlinear mathematics are more applicable to our world because we are limited within the environment in which we live. As soon as you exit the atmosphere, that's a whole different world. But in our world, it is nonlinear.
Yeah.
And you need to be using nonlinear to learn. Instead of using the linear like we are, we will see far more insight into what it is that we have and are able to do, and what the potential is of anything within the environment in which we live if we're using nonlinear mathematics.
Yeah.
But then space, on the other hand, linear.
Yeah. I was gonna say that's I was literally talking around space yesterday, I think, and looking at the helix and how far away that is for us. Like, and it was something like it would take 25 million years to get there. And it's looking at that kind of thinking, if you really look at something that big, it's crazy to think the kind of things that could happen out there. It's makes me think how to think bigger. Really, it's when you look at those kind of stats and you think, if there's all that out there, we could be doing so much more on Earth with, like you're saying, like it is. We are fixed to the globe at the moment, but that's why I'm so big on space travel, because there's so much to see out there that we imagine if we could go out there, Rob, like, and what kind of doors that would open to us if we could start doing space travel and everything. It will be insane. You might have
Oh yeah, I'll let all the early adopters have all of the danger and death in the process, but then once it's been figured out, then I'm down to go.
Yeah.
Once it's low risk, I got you. I'll do it.
Yeah, not going to be one
of probabilities, right? I jump
Yeah.
out of planes because the chances of the chute not pulling is about 1 in 1.2 million.
Yeah.
So chances of you dying as soon as you step into your car and start driving is about 1 in 17,000.
Yeah.
So every time you get in your car, you could die in your car like what 1,000 times over before your chute's not going to pull. But then you have a backup chute, and that's another one in 1.2 million.
Yeah. That brings it down even further.
Skydiving is safer than driving your car.
I wish I'd known that stat when I went skydiving, because I just jumped out the plane and I thought, well, I didn't even think about the stats behind it. It was just, I just know the stat that the most dangerous part of flying abroad is getting to the airport. Like you said, that stat around cars compared to being in a plane or something. So that's a that's a good one to know.
That's why fearing flying is quite literally an irrational fear.
Yeah.
The chances of your plane going down are like it's like one in you have like no you'll get struck by lightning 10 times before that happens. So,
Yeah.
it's a funny thing, but if you look at things from a probabilistic perspective, we live in a dangerous world, but also a very safe one.
Yeah.
The things we fear most are often the least dangerous.
Yeah.
It's because
That's
we cannot conceptualize them or it's out of our comfort zone. It's something that we don't think about actively.
yeah. But don't you think that's the thing then, Rob? Like, people with businesses and using these kind of stats, because I see people trying to have a negative view and people trying to use the negative view of AI all the time. And I think
They
it's
can
a
go
load of
ahead and have that view all they want because
exactly,
negativity just breeds more negativity. It's no good. There should be a positive view on almost everything.
exactly,
Negativity is good because of balance, but why not just be neutral? Neutral and
exactly.
positive. You're good to go. Neutrality means you're seeing it from both perspectives without trying to have the bias behind it and thinking it through. That's where I think people should really sit. And the ones who have a negative view on AI, those are the ones that have seen the movies, I Robot, The
Yeah,
Matrix, whatever it is. I'm obsessed with The Matrix, by the way, because it's one of the only sci-fi movies where you can't actually prove that it's not real right now, that it's not happening right now. But
it could be a real
totally,
film about a real
totally different
situation.
point. But the thing is, the negative comes from Hollywood and the way that
Yeah,
it's been put. There's been no evil AI that's been created except for the controversial Cambridge Analytica
yeah,
for mass psychological manipulation about around politics and political decisions.
yeah,
But that shows how people are sheeple, really, right?
yeah,
But the point is behind that is that it can be used for the wrong things. But when humans build technology, technology is never inherently evil.
yeah,
Even a nuclear bomb is not evil. The
yeah,
bomb itself, it just sits there until
yeah,
it's used, or if it's used for the wrong reason, right?
yeah,
So that's the thing is that technology is not evil. It's the intention in which it was built to make it that way or how it's used. So if an AI is created that's self-learning, that functions on its own and goes off and does its own thing, it had to have been programmed to do things that are negative or inherently quote unquote what we consider evil, which is just a cultural appropriation of what we consider right and wrong, right?
yeah.
It needs to be built to do those things and trained to do those things in order for it to be inherently evil. So as long as people who have the best intentions are creating it, it will be created to help solve and assist and bring ease versus the latter.
Yeah. I think that's a great point, because people see AI as evil when it's not. It's the people, like you've just perfectly explained it. It's the people behind it, or it's the people that want to change it. And I think, what do you reckon then, Rob? Because we get this question a lot, and looking at it from an angle of, are machines going to take people's jobs, or is it always going to be a world that people buy from people?
People buy from people that they like, trust, and can relate to, period, because buying is an emotional limbic system based process. And then
Yeah,
the final decision that's made is the neocortex, the logic. So they justify their emotional decision with logic in order. So they use the logic to justify that decision that they just made emotionally.
yeah,
So I don't think that machines will be replacing people with purchases, except unless it's a commoditized consumer product like a vending machine.
yeah,
There's no reason for a person to sell that. Like grocery stores or whatever else. There's no need for it. It's unnecessary. Also, really monotonous, just nonsensical. Why do we have a human doing this? Easily replicatable, absolutely no thought process behind it. Sure,
yeah.
those jobs will be taken, but there's no reason for humans to be doing those jobs in the first place. That gives
Exactly.
you the opportunity as that human being to learn, to specialize, and to actually help move us forward, create progress rather than assisting with the regress cycle.
Exactly, exactly. And I think that's where the big aspect of training and education comes into it, because if people understood that and they kind of knew that angle, they wouldn't be as scared of it. They wouldn't be so apprehensive around it, or so thinking, this is going to do this, is going to do that. And I always come from the point of view, if you're someone that wants to, and I don't know if you agree with this, Rob, but if you're someone that just wants to sit on the sofa all day
Right.
and just wants to do nothing and just get takeaway and do your 9 to 5, there's probably not going to be many jobs for you because that kind of job is going to be replaced eventually. It's a very automized, standardized job. And I think it's quite ignorant of people to think, well, of course it's going to take your job if that's what you're going to do. Where you've got to be more valuable to the marketplace.
It's the mindset around good enough.
Yeah.
If you live in a state of good enough, AI is going to be your worst enemy. Because if you're living in a state of good enough, you will be replaced because that mindset drives you to do monotonous, nonsensical jobs that do not need to be done by people because it takes no thought, takes no effort. You will be replaced. But that's the thing, is that the lack of education, or how we educate our children and our adults, is a problem because they feel like they're stuck, or they, good enough is good enough. It will be, I need to drive further. It will be a progress mindset. And if people can't switch that mindset, those are the ones who are going to be in trouble.
100%. 100%. That's where you need to really make sure that thinking how to change people's mindset, how to get people on board.
The human brain is literally wired genetically to want more.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how fulfilled you are. There's no such thing as your peak fulfillment. Doesn't exist. You always want more. You always want that. Why do you think the mega rich only get richer? Because they are addicted to progress.
Yeah.
And to
grow
more.
or die. Yeah. It is like a plant. It either grows or it dies. It doesn't, or it reaches its full potential and then it dies. And it's the same with us. I think it's, if you're constantly growing, you're constantly going to chase bigger things and do more things. And I think that's a great way of looking at it, because people get that mixed up. So it's it's a good way. I like it.
Yep. And then we also need the governments to stop having it so, like, the people are smarter and they're thinking. That means they're dangerous.
Yeah.
It is not a government's job to exist where the people fear it. A government must always fear its people.
Yeah.
The people should never fear their government.
Yeah.
That's when you know that we've gone wrong. Anybody, any country, anywhere.
Yeah.
As soon as you fear your government, there is a serious inherent problem, and that's when the limitations come in and they try to keep people down. I know, screw the man. No, this is actual psychological, what do they call it? Dampening. So what they do is, because they want to maintain power, that means it is a toxic environment that is being lived in, or there are some really deep-rooted inherent problems, because allowing people to innovate, think, and drive for progress, educate themselves, that is our future.
Yeah.
Trying to slow that down is working against us. Sure, it's better to take your time innovating things, because if you rush it, you can create something potentially dangerous.
Yeah.
But it's about allowing people to be creative, to innovate, to build things, and not telling them how they should live their life, but having them understand and learn what is it that makes them happy. If they figure that out, then they can do whatever it is and innovate in that area. Even if, oh no, there's nothing left to innovate there. No, there is. We just haven't found it yet, right?
100%. Goes back to our point earlier. You don't know what you're going to find. Like, we don't know what we're going to have, what we will be having this conversation in a year's time, Rob. Like, how it will be, how we'll be doing it, whether it's through VR or whether we'll be in person at a conference together, or what that will look like. And do you reckon
a VR podcast would be fun?
Yeah, I reckon it'd be quite cool. All sat around, and you could do it like you could have multiple people joining in. It'd be really quite cool, and do your team meetings as if you're part of the Jedi Council or something, so you can have everyone going around it. I really quite like that idea. And what do you think then, with your great point on governments having to fear the people? How do you reckon technology today? Because blockchain instantly jumped to my head. We're seeing a lot with banks and regulations hating the idea of blockchain because they think it's going to fuck it all up and it's going to take away their kind of power.
I know quite a bit about macroeconomics.
Yeah.
And a decentralized currency is actually very dangerous.
Yeah.
Because people can pretty much limit the market, how much is actually flowing. So it's limited by any individual. If they own a large share of a crypto, they could just not spend it and hoard it. And then there's less in the market. So artificial scarcity, they just blow up its value and then just sell a bunch of it, but then hoard it back when the price is low. So they can keep hoarding it, and they can really fuck everyone over in an economy. Yeah. The key to a healthy economy is money velocity.
Yeah.
Money velocity is the theory behind money moving in quantity and in speed, and how many transactions altogether.
Yeah.
The higher the money velocity, the more the currency is worth, and the more money there is to go around.
Yeah.
Businesses will pay more. They'll hire more people because money's moving. When money stops moving, it's like putting up a dam. The ecology on the other side of that river now all dies.
Yeah.
But then everything's thriving on the other side, big time. And it creates serious ecological problems. Yeah. So think about COVID. everybody said we need to save our money because everything's going downhill and we're going to lose our job. Blah blah blah. The economy would have never crashed if everybody kept spending their money as per usual. It
Yeah.
was literally because saving money destroys the economy.
Yeah.
That's why if you're saving money, put it into assets.
Investment fund.
I don't have
Yeah.
any. I have no more than $1,000 liquid in my bank account at any given time. It's all in
Yeah.
assets. Short term, high risk. Mid-term, mid risk. Long term, low risk. I
Yeah.
have 3 separate accounts, and that's how I move money around. If I've needed, I can get that money out of those accounts and spend it any way that I wish in liquid in
Yeah.
just 3 days, which is as long as you need. You just have to wait for the SEC to clear it. You have the money back. Whoop de freaking do. You can't wait 3 days to buy something.
Yeah. That's a good point. I've never, yeah. So, and that annoys me as well because you think I've read something. Even the biggest companies, if they went, I think the larger companies with the biggest cash flows, if they went 3 months without new business, they'd be on my head. Behemoths that we know, but they said the average is about 3 weeks. So they said the average of companies, whether it's the big multi £100 million companies, if they have no business, hypothetically, and it could potentially happen on your problems, the way we were talking earlier, how bad's that? You could have a business that's been around years collapsed overnight because there's no guarantee of it. And I think it's a real interesting point.
There are no guarantees in business. That's why if you ever see a guarantee in a contract, it's total bullshit. Sure, they have to live up to it by law, but the thing is, it will utterly destroy them eventually.
Yeah, especially if they're private as well, and you can't go after the owners. You go after the company. But if the company's no longer there, what's it abiding to? That's a good way of looking at it.
Business is just risk mitigation and trust.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah. But with a load of new businesses coming in, right? With all the AI and cloud and data companies, it will be. What do you think about that? How do you think about AI and regulation?
AI regulation, I think regulation for all, because too much of a good thing is always a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think there should be some regulation, and the regulation should be around the purpose in which the technology is built.
Yeah.
I do not think that AI should ever be built with the disinterest of human beings or any other intelligent sentient creature.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good way of looking at it. It's a big topic, isn't it? Regulation. When you look at what we see with
Also, I'm against using AI to control and or regulate and or predict the market.
Yeah.
Because it is an unfair advantage, and also the way that day trading works and what shorting things, the way that for example, look at Robinhood.
Yeah.
Spawn of Satan. I don't even know why. I've been warning people about that application since they freaking created it, because I looked into the owners and was like, this is a fucking scam owned by a hedge fund, and they're going to steal everyone's money. They block trading because they say, oh, you can't trade right now, we're blocking. It is illegal to deny someone their right to trade in the open market, period. They got a cease and desist from the US Congress to stop the shenanigans. Literally, I've seen it.
Yeah.
Right? Written by the US congressman and stamped of approval, stamp of the congressional house, right?
Yeah.
All that stuff. What they did is that they're technically owned by this hedge fund, and the hedge fund, they just dumped a ton of money into the GameStop stock, right?
Yeah.
And then what happened is that everybody bought in, the hyperinflated it, and then they pulled all of that money out, right? Robinhood pulled it all out. So they stripped all the money from the hedge fund, put it into Robinhood as profit.
Yeah.
And then all the people within the hedge fund who are all the investors of that hedge fund all got fucked because there is zero liability.
Never knew that.
Not technically illegal. They found a loophole, and then that's when the SEC went up their ass, and that's when the U.S. government got involved. But they didn't technically do anything illegal, which is why they are still functioning.
That's crazy that you can get away. But surely that kind of breaks people's trust, though, because we were talking about it earlier. How can you trust a business once that's happened?
They only lost a couple % of their users. It's because people don't know people don't know what the fuck any of it means.
Yeah.
Oh, what did they do? I don't know what they did. There's a hedge fund, whatever, money. That's what people think.
Yeah. I don't need to understand this. I just need to know where to put my money. And I saw that company like GameStop is up 1,000%. I need to get back in it. So they don't really care about the underlying trust of the business.
You know, people lost billions of dollars because of that. And Robinhood just lapped it all up.
Yeah. Big payday for them.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that goes into ethics and code behind it. If they were using an AI to drive that, would you be happy?
Yeah. I don't know. It's a big question that I have at the moment.
The people are the problem, though. They would have told the AI that's what they wanted to do.
Yeah. But it always annoys me and it always pisses me off, Rob, because we look at ethics. And I just think, shouldn't it be the right thing to do the right thing when you're in business? Like, why do we need all these big things around it? But clearly, people like Robin Hood, there's people that still do it. And you just think, how? I don't know. It just makes me think, because I have to hear about it a lot around ethics and panels around it and talking around it. And I just think, how hard is it that we don't want to do the right things? That there are these people out there that want to engineer algorithms to do the wrong thing. And I think it's just bizarre.
It's just money. It's greed. They want money. Because if you engineer something that does something malicious, someone is going to pay a whole lot of money for it.
Yeah. But then, yeah, you got the other side as well. All the big banks actually employing hackers and employing people to actually go after these kind of things, so they can find out where these loopholes are and where these areas are. But
yep, pen testers, penetration testers, all that stuff.
yeah,
that's why cybersecurity is getting so popular right now. I mean, think about the market with the gas pipeline out in the U.S. where they literally locked down where no gas could actually run through it. It almost bankrupted the company, and
I haven't heard this.
they literally held them. It was ransomware.
Yeah.
Until you pay, like, however, I think it was like $12 million in Bitcoin to this Bitcoin address. Otherwise, your gas pipeline is going to be shut down until you do so.
That's crazy. You can kind of scares me a little bit. Makes me question.
The government didn't do anything about it. Why? Because they don't negotiate with terrorists.
Yeah.
The company paid out of pocket to make that go away. Otherwise, it would have never happened. The government would not endorse it.
Really?
So guess what? They get nothing back from insurance or from anything because there was nothing that had to do with ransomware in there.
Yeah.
There was nothing that had to do with the government that would reimburse them. Nothing.
Yeah. It's one of those loopholes that people have found to how to get around the business and how to cripple a business. But that's the thing, right? All this new technology. It's like they say the biggest warfare is not going to be the nuclear bombs, like you said. It's going to be shutting down cities via technology. And all of a sudden, like you saw it in Texas when that snowstorm hit, you just kind of saw the impact of how much it just shut off the community, how much the local economy went down, like all the problems that come around from it, the healthcare. Because if you can't power the hospitals, that will be the next wave of what that kind of area looks like. And I think it's so important, again, to make sure that we do the right kind of things and use these technologies for the right kind of ways to stop those kind of people when they're coming about. But
yeah, people are getting all excited about crypto, but really blockchain that's awesome. If everything within a city's infrastructure ran within a blockchain network, then unless someone's on the inside, they can't shut down the infrastructure. It's that simple.
Yeah.
But even better than that, beyond blockchain, where's it going? Quantum environments.
Yeah.
Rather than a blockchain environment, a quantum environment. Literally unhackable, as far as we know.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And that's where we're going into quantum processing, building quantum environments, all that stuff. That is the future. Blockchain's not going to be around for too long. That's going to be like the cheap solution, the cheap version of what you want, because it's pretty much just locked airtight no matter what. But then quantum environments are going to truly be the next generation of that.
Like the Yahoo web browser before Google web browser came along.
Right.
Exactly. The secondhand one that no one wants to use unless you're really either very loyal to it. But yeah, no, look, and I think blockchain is a great way of looking at it as well. Especially, what do you think of NFTs then? That's a big talked about topic. How do you see that coming about?
NFTs, I'm talking to a guy, he's a founder of a business, deals a lot in NFTs, and he's getting super excited about it, but it doesn't, as they say, tickle my fancy.
Yeah, it doesn't give you a turtle, Rob.
No. Yeah. No, I just don't really see any. I'll let people work on that, do it, have fun with it, innovate with it. That's cool, but I have no real interest in that personally. What about you?
I don't know. I don't know where I stand. I think it's a gimmick, like something cool to have, something great to have. But I know Gary Vee talks about it a lot. So it makes me question what I actually know about it.
That's exactly what I think. It's a nice to have. It's not a must have. It's not a true innovation.
Exactly. And I just think this isn't much different. You're basically just making it better to exchange digital goods, almost, is the only thing I can see. And it's
great for illegal transactions or tax evasion. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. That's why
I've been doing that forever. I mean, why did cryptocurrency, why did it even get invented? So people could sell drugs online. Yeah. Literally black market sites without having it traced back to an account. Put it into an encrypted PGP note or an encrypted PVP note. You send that, and then they decrypt it, and the only person on the other side has the decryptor. Otherwise, people can't decrypt it. They see what the order is. They talk to each other through those PGP notes, and then boom, they make an order. They send Bitcoin from an escrow account on that site to whatever address it is, so it's totally untraceable. And from there, they send the drugs, and then that's that. Unless they get caught putting it in the mail, or you get caught receiving it in the mail, no one actually goes down. So it was a really, really good way. And since 99.7% of mail is not actually put through the proper search protocols in the US mail system, then you're virtually untouchable.
Yeah. You can't be found. Yeah. It's a crazy idea, isn't it? That you can essentially never be
And then
found.
NFTs, it's just that, except way more advanced and in a controlled environment, except anything can go down and it's easily accessible.
Yeah. I do like the idea though, of making something, especially with the metaverse coming around, what we were discussing earlier with NFTs. I can see some kind of cool collaboration there. But as you said, something that's nice to have, something I can't really see valuable to myself or anything like that. I just can't picture myself using it. It's like cryptocurrency. People call me crazy because they're like, "Oh, but you're heavily involved with cloud and AI and all these emerging tech." And I love the blockchain, I love the idea of it. And like you said, I'm obsessed with quantum computers when they're going to come out. But people say, "How can you not like crypto?" And I just said, I'm not convinced. I don't know. A, I don't know enough about it. But B, I just
People
can't.
are adding value. Crypto, all it
Yeah.
is that when you buy a coin, you are buying a tiny little chunk of an algorithm. You're buying a piece of math
Yeah.
that exists in the metaverse.
Yeah.
And it becomes physical data on your computer. If you hold it in a cloud environment, you're defeating the purpose because it's traceable and taxable. You put it into a wallet on your computer on a hard drive, period.
Yeah.
Okay. So you bought a piece of math. What are you going to do with it? Sit on it and hope it gains value. What value? What is it? What is it? What are you buying?
Yeah. I don't know. That's why I don't know. I know when I buy a company, similar
You're
to
buying
you.
a link in a chain
Yeah.
of math.
Yeah. Compared to if you buy a company, like you were saying earlier, and I'm a big fan of putting money either in an index or picking singular companies. Always buy what you own and what you stand by. And that's my kind of viewpoint. But I know I'm buying a team of people, and I know I'm buying buildings with their name on it, and I know I'm buying physical goods if it's someone like Heinz, or I know I'm buying a service or Apple.
Actual assets, right?
Actually see it, and I can know it's.
But there's crypto out there that could be useful, like Civic CVC. That's an altcoin. That's used for identityless identity verification.
Yeah.
It's useful. It has a purpose. It's worth something. Or District OX. So identity validation or entryway tokens in HTML5 environment. Great.
Yeah.
So website verification tokens, fantastic. That has a purpose. Bitcoin, nothing. What can it do? It can trade extremely slowly, about an hour and a half to 2 hours, into someone else's account at an extremely high transaction rate.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then they came out with Litecoin. It's the same thing as Bitcoin, except it's written in Swift rather than SHA-256. So it's a little bit more optimized. You can trade it in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
That's a great way of looking at it as well. How, because I just can't use it. I'm sure the crypto companies out there will love us being on this podcast together because
with such a high fluctuation of value, you can like put your life savings in there. The next day, you lost 60% of your money. But I still play the crypto game. I can't talk that much shit about it. I buy into crypto because I just follow whatever's popular in the market. I do it based off of public relations and public popularity, public sentiment of it. Throw a bunch of money in it. It goes up like 40%. Then I pull the money right back out. Gone. So
that's
now
what I always tell people, because people say, "Oh, but I can make all this money and I can make all this percentage." I always say, Rob, and I don't know if your listeners agree, but I always say cryptocurrency, assets, whatever, that's great. But nothing is going to give you a higher percentage than your own business, I reckon, or a business, because a business can do 10,000% in sales. I'd be very amazed if I found a property that can get me that kind of cash flow or that kind of cryptocurrency, which has happened, I guess. I don't know if it's happened 10,000%.
I mean, you know Shiba? You know Shiba coin?
No.
Oh, so it's SHIB USD, Shiba coin. I bought into that way early on. It was like a fraction of 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 a cent.
Yeah.
I threw $1,000 in there.
Yeah.
I'm up 14,000% right now.
That's incredible because I didn't know that those kind of things exist. I thought it was only with a business where where it's uncapped. You can go as high as you like.
I was trading Bitcoin because I was at a tech school and everything like that. Just
Yeah,
messed around with that stuff. Traded Bitcoin, mined some of it, all that stuff. I was buying and selling Bitcoin when it was $25 a coin.
yeah, that's ridiculous.
At one point, I had 150 Bitcoin.
Yeah,
If I held on to that and then forgot about it, do you know how much money that would be?
yeah,
10 Bitcoin is about $380,000. Multiply that by 10, that's like 3.8 million, right?
yeah,
And then that by a half, I would have $5 million in Bitcoin sitting in my shit right now if I just held on to it. I was like, this shit ain't going to be worth anything. Like, this is just some stupid nonsense. That's what I was thinking at the time.
yeah. Something that I've been conned into. I don't know what it is. I don't understand it, and I don't want to buy
No,
it.
I understood it. I understood how it's built. I went to a tech school. We used to mine it. We knew what it was. And the fact that that's the problem. The public doesn't know what it actually is.
Yeah, that's what I
I
probably
know
jumped
what
at.
it is,
I
and I
don't know
was
what.
like, "This shit is worthless." That's all I was thinking because I actually know what it is.
Yeah,
Never thought
exactly.
it would actually gain value. I was like, I mean, it's pretty cool because everybody's agreed upon what it's really worth, and you could trade black market items. Awesome. It was a nice workaround, but then it actually turned into something because publicity is an incredible, powerful thing.
Yeah, exactly. Getting the right message behind it, which I think is a big thing as well. To go slightly off topic, anything like Bitcoin or anything to do with AI or cloud, the messaging, and it's like being in investment banking. I have that view that they always try and close you off with those kind of words, and I think it's the same with kind of Bitcoin. They try and close you off, but I think it's the key thing, communication around something. Because, like we said earlier, if you can't understand it and you don't understand it, you're probably not going to want to be involved in it. Which is why people get these misconceptions of things being bad or things being awful. But I wish they would explain it to me a bit better because maybe I'll have understood Bitcoin and maybe I'll have been one of those early buyers. But now I just look at it as a fad. I'm not sold on it, and I don't
It
think the
always
same.
was a fad, and if you were someone early on who knew what it was, you wouldn't have bought into it.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
you
It
can't
was
have
all the
the
people who
mindset
didn't
of
know
it.
what it was that gave it value.
Yeah,
It's the
you
exact
can't have.
opposite of how it usually works. But listen, we are out of time here. That was
Yeah,
a good way to finish. I don't know if anybody's even going to like listening to that, but I think it's going to be pretty cool. They're definitely going to learn something.
yeah.
So I want to thank you so much, Tom, for your time. I appreciate it. What's the best place for people to find you and your AI journal?
Really appreciate it, Rob. It's been great to be on the show. You can find me at Tom Allen at LinkedIn, and you can find me on the AI Journal by typing it into Google, which should be the first result. And would love to connect with you, love to hear your story, and love to welcome you to the AI Journal community. But thank you for having me on, Rob. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime, anytime. So thank you everybody for listening to Down the Rabbit Hole podcast today. Again, I'm your host, Rob Turley, and this podcast was brought to you by White Rabbit Intel, where you can target, hyper target, and then understand who it is that you sell to in a way where you can find more like them. So generate leads effectively and be able to predict which one is most likely to become your champion. A lot of fun. Anyway, have a good one. If you share this, please use hashtag DTRH podcast and feel free to tag me or Tom. We will share it out and we will help you get more engagement on that post.
Absolutely.
Have a good night. If you enjoyed this episode, follow Down the Rabbit Hole podcast for new episodes weekly on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Pandora, and YouTube. If you'd like to apply to be featured on the podcast or recommend a featured guest, please feel free to email us at theteam@whiterabbitintel.com.